Okay, welcome back to another episode of this 1936 Ford rebuild. Been a few weeks, so it's time to get another video up there for you to watch. This episode is going to mainly deal with some tedious body work and some panel fitness. I spent some time putting the grille and the front fenders on and kind of fitting them together. Needed to do some tweaking and some bending and some massaging to get the front body lines to match up. Okay, we're making some progress here. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get this seam between the grille and the fender straight. Just a matter of working each piece as you go down. Put the first bolt in, and I'm using vice grips to clamp as I go and look at the seam. And it was a little bit, a little bit curvy, a little bit off. So I clamp it here. The fender was out further than the grill, so I just heated it up and tapped it back into place, and now it's looking real nice. I'm gonna have to probably re-drill a few of these holes because they're not lining up perfectly, which means this grill might be different than what came with the car. It's hard to say. So we're just gonna keep working this seam all the way down and see how we can make it look. Okay, I've roughed in this grill and it actually fits pretty good. A little bit of persuasion, but I'm really happy with the way it's fitting. I just have to do a little bit of work down here on this lower edge that isn't lining up correctly. I've got to bend it around a little bit, and then I've also got to re-drill some of the holes. The grill holes aren't matching up 100%, so I've got to drill them out. Okay, we're working on this angle right here. I need this to curve in a bit more. You can see this line. The fender's below the grill by that far, so this has to be curved up. Well, to do that, if I just bend it up, it's gonna wrinkle this edge right here like it's already starting to do. It's gonna make some waves in it. So we're gonna get the old shrinker out, which I've attached to 2x4, and we are gonna shrink this metal down right through here, which will pull it together and naturally curve that in. Now let's give it a shot. Okay, you can clearly see that it shrunk that. What it does is it grabs the metal and just jams it together. And so now I can bend this part down and bend this out just a bit, and that will suck it, that will bring it down. In fact, you can tell that this hole here used to be round. Like all these, it used to be a round hole, and now it's been smashed together. Okay, that did the trick. You can see here that the line follows all the way down and around to the bottom. So this was sticking down and out pretty good, but now it follows the curve. And all it will take now is a little bit of minor body work, and it will be perfect. Also spent some time grinding off excessive Bondo on the front fenders. We're going to do the back fenders next. Just decided that I was going to leave the body work and the Bondo that the previous owner put on here, but I kept running into a few issues of maybe a little bit of rust under some of that Bondo, and so when I started to take it off, I was discovering that it was much thicker than I'm used to, and also some of the repairs that they did were kind of rough. So I decided to take all the Bondo off and deal with refixing some of the dents and rust holes that they had patched. So I spent time working on the front fenders. We cut out, I should say I cut out some previous repairs that had already started to fail, a little bit of rust, a little bit of fatigue, cracking. And to do that, working on the front lip of the fender, I created a couple of bodywork tools, essentially just round bar, this bent in the same circumference radius of the front lip so that I can use it as a dolly. And spent more time on the front grille. This episode is going to end kind of abruptly because right in the middle of working on this front fender, I had enough with the garage being kind of a mess. It was time for the biannual, reorganize the garage, which I do every 2 or 3 years. I have a bad habit of not putting things away like mid-project. And then I'll end up with every flat surface in the garage having tools and stuff on it, and it starts to snowball into being a problem. So I dropped the tools about a week and a half ago and decided to completely clean out and reorganize the garage. And it's back to the way it was a couple of years back. I'm going to try my best to keep it this way for a while. A little low spot right through here. So we're going to put a shadali underneath the low spot and use the slapper on either side. Okay, a little bit better. You can see it right there. Right, that's the low spot we're working on. Right there. Okay, so. aggressive. A little tiny bit high right there. Okay. Okay, we're working on this fender here, as you can tell. And this fender is pretty rough, super rough actually. You can see this is all wavy and bumpy. It's been hit right here. It's got some creases that come down. And the previous owners worked on it once and then put Bondo over everything. Well, I took the Bondo off and we're gonna work this metal until it's smooth, just like this. All these bumps and waves continue down to here, and we've been working them out slowly but surely. It gets really bad up here. I'm gonna have to probably cut out this little square here and replace it because it's been ripped and then welded with a MIG welder, which makes it harder. I don't think I can work that out very perfectly, so this will be cut out. And then the whole front of the fender is awfully bumpy, and it gets super bad up here. I don't know what they did. Obviously the fender was hit, and it has a tear that came right up here. And they MIG welded this like crazy. It looks like the surface of the moon. And then they bonded over it. Well, this is all terrible. I'm gonna have to cut this out. We're gonna have to redo the crease here. This crease that comes down the center of this fender, they hammered in a crease, but it's jogged over about 3/4 of an inch. And they continued it all the way down to the bottom, and it's supposed to fade out. This crease is supposed to come down and disappear right about here somewhere and just be smooth. So, yeah, this just has me a little bit nervous because this is going to be technically above my skill level, but we're going to take our time and see if we can fix it. We're going to metal finish, metal work all of this, get this all smooth, and when we come to here, we're going to cut this out and patch in a new piece. Okay, we're making progress here. You can see this is really starting to smooth out quite a bit. I'm just working on each little imperfection as I go. The problem I'm running into is that the previous owner hammered this fender out. There was dents here, obviously. They hammered it all straight, and then they took a dual action sander, and they ground into the metal. So a lot of these indentations that you see in black here are actually not necessarily dents. They're ground metal that's been taken out of the thickness of the sheet metal, which makes it thinner there. It doesn't necessarily mean that I can't fix it. I still can bend it out, but it's you know, it caused more damage than I thought was there. But it's coming along. I'm working my way this way. This is all very smooth, just real light indentations. What I'm doing is I'm spraying on a little bit of black spray paint, and then when I sand, you can see the highs and the lows. So what I'm doing with these real small ones, this could all be covered with a little bit of filler and sand and be fine. But I'm smoothing this out for practice, just to get better at my tools. And I've been playing with this pick. This is a pick that picks the backside of the fender into this bullseye. Very easy to tell where it's going to hit. So you find a small indentation. We can work on this little black one right here. And then when you sand it, it almost disappears because it's being raised up ever so slightly. So I'll work on this crease right through here. Kind of hard to tell if I want to work on those or not, because they're little gouges in the metal. I don't know if it's necessarily need to take that out. Maybe I'll work on this one. Yeah, it takes most of it out. So in this lumpy part right here, we got a whole bunch of lows, a whole bunch of highs, and it feels lumpy. You can rub your hand across that and feel the imperfections. So we're gonna use a spoon, we're gonna use a dolly that's contoured to the shape of the fender on the inside. That will contact all those lows, and you're just gonna slap all the highs, and it will even out. When you hit down, you're pushing down here, that makes that push up, and it tends to flatten it all out. What I'm using now is just this little knob, and that puts pressure right in the center of some of these black spots, and it's just pushing up as I'm beating around the edge of it like that. also going to create a couple of tools here. I've got a piece of round bar. I've got one of my bodywork tools that's seen better days. I'm going to weld this onto there, and we're going to curve this a little bit. I'm going to use that on the inside of this fender lip so that I can straighten out some of the damage caused on this inside lip. We're going to use the press to put a bend in this, then we're going to weld it to that. That'll be my next project. All right, there we go. I've created a tool I'm going to use. I'm going to wrap it in the inside of this lip here and be able to hammer out a bunch of dents that are on this lip. It gets flat here, and then when I come up to this part, I'll be able to stick it in there and tap away at it. So that's my tool I created out of an old pry bar that's seen better days. Okay, so I created this patch for this lip right here with a curve in it that matches this curve, but I cut it too short. Or I actually cut this hole too big. I put it up here and marked it, and I cut on the outside of the lines. So I don't want a gap that big. I like them to be fairly tight. So we're going to create a new one, a new piece here, and I'm going to show you how you fold this in half, but still get a curve out of it. If you were going to fold this in half, it would just be straight. To get this inside curve, we're going to use the shrinker stretcher over here. Okay, we got a flat piece of metal here. And we're going to start the process by just bending it in half. And I kind of fold it over this form that's the same diameter as the bead roll that we're working on. I bent this around some round rod that's the same diameter as the edge I'm trying to create, and now we're going to stretch it, which will make a curve into it. You can see now we got a curve. It's probably way too much, so we're going to form this over a curved piece of metal. All right, there we have it. We have a new edge. This one's longer. In fact, it's considerably longer. I'm going to trim it down. Once I get done tinkering on it, we'll put it on the grinder and take a little bit off. But that will go on the lip of that fender. Have it. Another episode in the books. Check back in the next couple of weeks. We'll have another episode up for you and making further progress, I'm sure. See ya.